Okay, it's 6:04. We'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. It's January 17th and it's 6 p.m. And with that, we'll move into the closed portion of our meeting.
We don't have any staff?
Pam
or Niall?
No, other than that. No, Marina. The proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public will be the committee appointments, and there will also be section 9.1 A and N discussed. So with that, we'll close the portion of the meeting off to the public, and we should be back at 7 o'clock. So thank you. Hey, welcome to the council meeting, January 17th. We have had the closed portion of the meeting, and I'd like to report out from our closed portion. The council has unanimously agreed to appoint Susan Davis, Kirsty Pappas, Scott Gordon, Oliver Gansky, and councillors Abbott and Broughton to the Beach Advisory Committee. So we're looking forward to that committee doing some great things ahead. So thank you very much to everyone. I'd also like to just read a brief address, and I'd like to welcome you all for coming. There's much work to do in the village of Lions Bay. There's important projects. It's on the agenda, Ken? It is, yeah. It is right. You'll see it there, reporting out, and then there's address. So I'll continue on. Welcome, thank you again.
It's not on the
It is
posted.
Yeah, it is.
Get 2 copies.
Would you mind if I read it? It's a brief intro. Nothing contentious. Is that okay with the agenda?
That's first thing we have.
Out and then we approve the agenda. Well, I was going to read just a few brief statements before we approve the agenda. Is that fine? If we're there, item number 3. So reporting out from the closed portion of the meeting / mayor's address.
Okay, well, it's not part of the pointing out, and it's
okay.
Discussing point out. Let's approve an agenda, follow the procedures by the approve an agenda, add that to the agenda, on the agenda, and we go to the agenda in the first thing.
Okay. Listen, I want to accommodate you as much as possible. So how would you like to handle it? You'd like to
this horrible technical good that yourself.
Okay.
Before you know the previous class.
Good enough.
My memory procedure guidance says
going to take Councillor Abbott's suggestion into account, and I'll address the village after we approve the agenda. So, okay. Item number 4 is the adoption of the agenda. Is there any other items that would like to be brought forward by the councillors?
the mayor would like to add an address. The first thing in the agenda.
Okay.
Yes. And so obviously the rest of them haven't seen it, came and say there's nothing contentious, that's fine. Speaking on this for yourself, I guess, but the rest of us don't know what's about to come. Is that correct?
I hope it will answer some questions. It'll be very general in nature, thanking people, really an outreach and a request for cooperation within the village and council. Cooperation with what? Just in order to function as a group and be as effective as possible and try to really bring the village together. Okay. So that's fine. Under the agenda as amended.
Yeah, that should be agenda.
Oh, I thought you did.
Yeah, but you notice that is ready procedure by the other thing we always have public participation first. I'd like to understand why we're moving public participation. It's against the bylaw, so there'd have to be a resolution.
I didn't understand this being against the bylaw. We thought it would be more effective to get run through an agenda that was very clear, maybe generated some questions, some comments, but in my review, it isn't. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, or I can correct you if you want. Section 23 calls for
procedures bylaw called for public participation to follow the meet and adoption of the agenda.
Well, I thought it would be more effective, and that was a call that I made in conjunction with the CAO. We thought we'd go through the agenda and then we'd be able to answer questions, and might stimulate some additional.
We have a constituent at the end.
Okay, would you prefer as a council to keep the 2-minute questions at the beginning? Okay, Councillor Ryder? Yep. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm fine with that. We can do that. Okay, any other items that others would like to add to the agenda? I've got a couple.
I don't have anything to add to the agenda, but I do have an unintended item part of the therefore bylaw stuff that could be missed with the note of that. So I'll just issue them and get to that point. It's nothing that wasn't in the earlier email. It's anything to see.
Okay.
I just added that.
Okay. That's let's see, one resolution to for council to discuss the procedures bylaw, and the other was a resolution to discuss the by-election.
Yeah, but also clarify the acting mayor role based on the fact that Councillor Barnia is no longer going to be in the second term. Sure. Yeah, if we could just clarify that under resolutions that may require a resolution. Okay.
Sure, it seems alphabetical, doesn't it?
One resolution. What I'd like to add is, are we going to see a report under section 9 from the mayor on the terms of reference for the finance committee?
That's posted.
These terms of reference should come to council. When is that going to happen?
The standing committees, I believe, are the mayor's at the mayor's discretion. Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear in the procedure bylaw.
Well,
Do you want me to quote chapter and verse?
I'll quote chapter and verse, which is section 52, that committees, and that includes standing and select committees, will undertake review of the matters as directed by council. So seems to me the mandate in terms of reference and what the standing committee is involved in should come before council. We haven't seen that yet. I was expecting a report on that here.
There's no plan for the report. If that's the case, then we'll have to defer that and pick it up at the next meeting. If that's the case.
The standing committee stand on to review it.
But I just
Like, is that? I think, you know, in the best interest of the village, the finance standing committee was brought together because there was some concerns that some of the controls that have been seen that the CAO has observed, and you know, we felt that we needed some expertise in that regard. You know, I reached out to you, Neville, and Marcus, I reached out to you as well to invite you to that meeting because there were some concerns. So,
and I did respond to you, after you reached out to me. Yeah.
Right, you were busy. You had other activities.
But prior to that, I also told me that issues with the terms of reference that I wanted to discuss.
And you had a possession of the terms of reference.
And I think that
I mean, we're dealing with semantics here. We're at critical. We've got $5.7 million in the village bank account that there is some serious concern. And we outreached to you personally. And I tried to accommodate you in every way I could for alternative dates and times and this and that. So, you know, if we're dealing with semantics here, I get serious about the village.
I don't think it's semantics. I want to get simply with the council related suggestion the way I read it. And my feel the same is council discuss direction being given to the financial committee. Which would be a discussion on the terms of reference. We do so.
And we will do that. And I think we even sent that out to you and you actually provided some edits to it.
It's one response, so you have to talk about.
They were incorporated actually.
I'll just add one thing that I did see one.
On a point of privilege, please. My privilege is, you know, if we want to adhere to the rules, then one of those is you address your comments through the chair.
Fair enough.
And that's the way the matter should proceed.
Fair enough.
And with respect to quoting the bylaws, I'm happy to be involved in that process and providing you some feedback on the interpretation and application of the procedural bylaw. And also some of the law that obtains in this area. So I think perhaps we could proceed in accordance with the rules and in accordance with the quorum.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, CEO.
Give that to between the agenda. So,
Okay, so
make some suggestions.
yeah, and any others?
I don't have anything else. I don't understand.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Okay, second, all in favor? Yes. Aye. Yes. Marcus? Yes. Okay, motion carried. Okay, I'll open up then. Welcome. Thank you for coming. There is much work to do in the village of Lions Bay. There are important projects that must be moved forward efficiently and effectively and responsibly. I acknowledge council has had a short 78 days in office, and the acting CAO has had only 9 days in office. With council, I will continue to pursue a platform of responsible fiscal management and open and transparent communication. I acknowledge that we are just getting started. On several occasions, I reported to the residents in open meetings that council and I had difficulty getting information before and after we were elected. We will continue to work towards effective transfer and disclosure of important information to safeguard our village as it continues or as it becomes available. Council responsibly searched for an acting CAO and unanimously appointed the highly qualified and capable person to move the village forward in Mr. Anthony Tobin. In Mr. Tobin's 9 days in office, he has undertaken a rigorous review of various documents and information to improve both financial and information technology data controls of our village. In addition, he has produced the first draft of a council procedures bylaw intended to serve as a foundation for effective communication between council. During his 9 days, Mr. Tobin has also worked 12-hour days meeting with key individuals and organizations that directly impact on the effective operation and asset management of the village of Lions Bay. Mr. Tobin has provided important information to council, which has required timely and decisive response. Full participation and cooperation from all our staff will be required as this initiative takes place. I would like to also add that council appreciates the observations and suggestions for improvements in the village processes and operations and constructive feedback. Letters which are defamatory cannot be received, published, or discussed in council. Publishing of defamatory statements become a libel on the part of the person or organization who restates the information. I would like to thank everyone for their positive feedback and constructive guidance this council has received from the residents of Lions Bay. I'd also like to acknowledge the expressions of interest from residents for the various committees within the village, which will all be posted in due course. Our first town hall meeting resulted in information on the beach park information of the beach park working group, soon to become the beach park committee, and is a shining example of the community pulling together. And on that note, I'd like to move forward on the next items of agenda. So we spoke about opening up the calls and comments from the gallery, so we'll do that. Maureen, with your help, okay, we'll open it up by Carl.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I want to speak about the council procedures bylaw that we see a wholesale across the board change to the one that we have now. As I'm sure you know, the purpose of a council procedures bylaw is to tell you what to do to somewhat protect the public's interest from outside forces and sometimes indeed from its own council. 2 minutes is a short time, and I'd run through some glaring inconsistencies that I see in the draft there. But I would take the initial part of my time to request you to not consider this council procedures bylaw. The one we have is adequate as a starting point. We see no report, in no redlining, no strikes out. We don't know what's changed because it's been so wholesale. There's not any report that gives an indication of what's changed and why. Indeed, I have no idea why this was necessary. If there was anything that was vaguely working, I would have said it was the procedures bylaw. What I would ask you to do instead is to direct staff to make incremental changes as you desire to the existing bylaw, redlining them so that everybody can see what's changed. So that's my main ask to you. In terms of things that I see there, some of the things that give me great concern are the need to sign up well before the meeting to be able to speak in it. The fact that there's only one public comment period, and that's at the end of the meeting, which, as you know very well, could be at 9, 10, 11, 12, and in some cases, 1 o'clock in the morning. I really don't think you should expect people to wait that long to have their say on something that is in the agenda that by the time they speak will have been discussed already. There's inconsistencies there on the time at which the agenda needs to be published. It's either sometime before 5 o'clock on the Wednesday before, or 24 hours. You can't have two minimums, so it's got to be one of them. Today's 24 hours. That's never been enough. Practice has been to have the thing ready by the weekend so that people can review it. I'd suggest that's good practice. If you need an actual number, presumably it have to be 24, because who's going to stick to the Wednesday if the 24 is available to them? I will also say that Section 101 changes that. It's inconsistent with Section 48. Section 10.5, for example, says that you can have a meeting with 0 notice as long as you publish the minutes 48 hours after the meeting. That's a very slippery slope. I hope you recognize that. The whole point of this thing is to protect the public so they can have some inkling of what's going on. I could go on, and I will write this all down in a letter to you. Whether that gets considered, I don't know. But again, I'll repeat my ask in closing.
I think we got that. That's great, and we appreciate your feedback, and we'll definitely take that into account. And there's going to be further discussion on this, so that's the first draft. It's been circulated, and we wanted to bring it forward. So thank you very much for that input.
Thanks.
Maria, next. If you've got a question in the gallery, please put up your hand. And with that, why don't we move to, is there anybody here with us this evening that would like to ask a question? No? Okay. We'll go back to the online gallery. If someone has a question, you want to put up your hand, your electronic hand. More than happy to entertain that question.
Also, unmute and talk, which you don't know where
Unmute, if you don't know where that is. Okay, we'll just give you a few more seconds here and then we'll move on. Okay, no, I see one hand up there. What's that? Yeah. Karen Dyer. What's that?
Me, Karen Dyer, can I start speaking? Have I got? Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question about the by-election. Do you plan to announce the by-election in this council session? And do you have an estimated cost to the village for running a new by-election?
Perhaps I'll try to answer that and then after anything. We were going to discuss it if the council made a motion to approve that. We could move forward, but I think a discussion is in order. My feeling is that, and I believe the legislation is that bylaw should move forward at the earliest possible date. Of course, we have a short sort of staff, so I know that Anthony has reached out to contractors, and I believe that there is some proposal on the table, and it's in the $30,000 to $35,000 range for running the by-election. So of course, that resignation by our former councillor was devastating to the community, but we'll move forward. So anything further you'd like to add, Anthony? That's not okay. All right.
So it's you, Richard.
Thank you.
We're going to have a discussion on it. I think Anthony would give us some background. Yeah, because I threw that out. I put the discussion on the. I believe I did, didn't I? No, you didn't. Okay, my apologies. I thought I had added that. So I know Anthony has a report, and perhaps that'll be distributed then. My apologies.
Through the chair, and with all due respect,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of reports tonight for the first time. Can we get this one sent to us? We can read it before the meeting.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I had added that to the other business, so it isn't on the agenda, so it won't be discussed. But my recommendation, when it is discussed, will be to move forward as early as possible. Another question?
I think Karen had something more to add.
Yeah, just one, this is a comment more than anything. Gentlemen, your sound quality is just terrible. I don't know if anyone else is struggling with this who is listening, but the sound quality is terrible for those of us who are participating via Zoom. I'm not sure if I haven't noticed this before when I've sat through other meetings, but tonight it's really bad. So I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, but I wonder if you might consider adding a second mic. Neville, particularly your voice is just not carrying through to the transmission. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you very much. We'll try to. Yeah.
Don't forget to join.
Well, now you're muted.
Karen, can you hear my voice all right now?
I can hear you, Marcus. I'm struggling more with Neville.
Okay.
And I can hear Ken okay. I haven't heard Michael speak yet, so I don't know if his voice is carrying, but we are struggling to hear Neville, and I've talked to a few other people who are online who also are struggling. So just to let you know.
Well, can you hear me now? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Am I any better now that I'm moved away from my computer?
You're a little bit better actually now, Neville.
Yeah, I was behind my computer.
Okay,
Okay.
they're a little closer. All right, thank you for that. Is there any other questions before we move on?
I'm done with questions tonight, so I'm going to mute myself again.
We'll end the public participation then, and we'll move on to item number 6, review and approval of the minutes of the prior meetings. Councilors, any comments or changes to the minutes?
1 second.
The minutes from December 20th. Yes.
So could you open the wrong one?
Any comments?
Sure. If I could just pick up, there was a concern regarding the chain link fence installation in Marjorie Meadows, and I did get in touch with Public Works Manager Nye Jaffer, and I'm looking forward actually to a meeting with Nye, and if we could discuss the possibilities there in terms of there was an issue from Ms. Potgeiger, which and I've provided that letter, and the goal of that letter was really to clarify, so it was around safety, near at the base of, Margie Meadows, in terms of car safety, dogs, and so on. So if we could discuss that in the near future, that would be terrific.
I could, maybe if I just comment on that, I did actually send back an email to everyone. So it's Port Peter. Port Peter. And when Carol Conlon came with a similar request, and Carol Conlon was looking for a request for a dog agility park. Okay, right. And then we were also looking for a place where fenced area where the dog can run off the lead. That was the other request. Margie Meadows worked for neither of those circumstances. Unless you fence the whole creek, and I've been feeling with people who want to get out of the water, and you've got to fence all the housing next door. And it doesn't work as a dog agility park, because if you go out there in water running, you can't hear yourself talking and mind your dog. So we looked all over the village. Just in case you can think of, still something that I think would be a benefit to the community. But if anyone can help us find the right location, we could do those. As to the double gating, which is a similar issue on the side, it doesn't meet the requirements of those original letters that came to council. Right.
It was a side issue that did arise from the discussion, so the double gating. Okay, any edits on this or changes? Not from me. Okay, I have one change on page 8 of 147, and it is the Human Resources Committee will soon be constituted by the mayor, Councillor Abbott, Councillor Reuter, when terms of reference and non-disclosure agreements were put in place or are in place. I would eliminate Councillor Abbott and Councillor Reuter as the standing committees of the mayor's prerogative and appointments.
So your intention is yourself and Councillor Barton?
No, it just says here would soon be constituted by. So yeah, so we could either if it's constituted by, that'll be the mayor. Okay. Yeah, but these are the minutes of the 20th, and this was the discussion that we had. If you want to and feel it's within your right to change the terms of the standing committee, then I'm sure you'll take a go at it. But those are in fact the discussions that did occur on that day. Well, I think the discussions were always at the mayor. It was the standing committees or the mayor's appointments. So in this, and as I read it, maybe we can just wordsmith that a little bit. But as I read it, you're looking to have also authority on appointing that standing committee. Is that?
I think it's just badly worded.
Oh, okay. I think what we just
wordsmith
it a little bit.
We pointed out we're going to be on which committees.
Yeah.
And those were the 3 people on this particular committee.
Okay, so perhaps that wording can change. Yeah. All right. To what effect? To clarify the actual committee members. Given will soon be constituted by Mayor Barry. Yeah, maybe. So to include Councillor Abbott and Councillor Reuter. Sure. And that would be subject to Councillor Reuter and I having some discussions, which we've missed each other for the last week or so and not been able to get together. So, subject to us being able to get together and have. Well, I think right now we're just approving minutes, so we'll just. Okay, well then let's just eliminate and Councillor Abbott and Councillor Reuter. So it'll be constituted by Mayor Barry, eliminate Councillor Abbott, eliminate Councillor Reuter in the terms of reference, and we'll move from there. That'll be. I think that clarifies your intent. Okay, is that acceptable for the minutes? That's not the minutes.
It's not the minutes. The minutes were 3 of us would be on the committee.
Okay, that's going to be constituted.
That was done properly, and that was the intention of the minutes. 3 of us on the committee, so mayor standing.
Okay, just to be clear, when I appoint that committee, that's when the committee will be constituted.
Sure.
Right? Okay. All right. Sure. But to correct the minutes, what we're doing now is essentially adding the word between Mayor Barry and Councillor Abbott, the word to or the words to include, and then you can have a further discussion about the standing committees if you so desire.
Well, I think as we said, I've reached out to you and we're going to have a discussion and make sure that we can work together effectively in that committee. Is that
Just approving the minutes here.
okay? So then I would eliminate.
Well, if I may, there should simply be a motion, gentlemen, for to amend them, to amend the minutes accordingly.
Yes,
Rather than, so that's what should be on the table.
Correct.
So then I'll suggest you formulate a motion to amend the minutes and wordsmith it accordingly.
and I think that was what I was trying to do. So the motion to amend would be that paragraph read, the Human Resources Committee would soon be constituted by Mayor Barry and would include councillors Abbott, councillor Reuter, et cetera, in the terms of reference to your non-disclosure NDAs were in place. Interviews with qualified residents would be conducted.
Okay, could we add when Mayor Barry appoints the committee member?
Where? I mean, we're just trying to correct a typo as to the minutes. We're not attempting to have a discussion about the standing committees.
Establishing policy.
Yes. That would come at a future.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, I will, we'll get that. I'm moving that.
Okay. Yeah, I second.
Yes.
Okay, carry. Okay,
Thank you.
and the resolution, sorry, the minutes for December 29th. Any comments? Changes?
It's really not surprising for you to comment, but
So we're discussing the 29th? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I really changes. I do have much of the argument.
Okay, Councillor Felton. I think this will be in information arising, yeah. Okay. Councillor Roy, nothing, okay, we have a motion to approve it. Second. All in favor? Yes. Okay, carried. Okay, number 7, business arising from the minutes. Melon, you mentioned you had some, okay.
A couple of these things I think would be better if we just put them on, make sure they're on the action list. So you know, this one I know to is on the action list, I think. That's the one on page 7, maybe reporting the speculation tax. Immature. That one's fine. Then it goes on to say the action was maybe you contact Finance Minister Robinson. I believe we have that may be wrong. I think there's a change in the Finance Minister.
Yeah.
But could we put that on the action there as well, please?
Sure.
And the action of the Public Works Manager, without the parking plan. If how soon do you think we have the parking plan report there?
So when I brought this up at the staff meeting, the parking plan is typically done by the municipal coordinator who has access to all the parking stats through the online parking ticket app. So it's usually the municipal coordinator and the CAO that pull this report together. So nothing has started on that.
The CAO in action to do that.
Yes.
So the background, Anthony is been a suggestion of request at a parking committee.
Okay.
And normally we reviewed last year's parking plan on workshop buildings and in preparation for obviously the West season, which is summer. Right. So with several members of the residents who asked to join that committee, that's decided to defer establishing the committee until such time as we have the plan.
And so we were able to review the parking plan.
Yeah, well,
Otherwise, the plan report.
And report, yeah.
yeah, there are other issues arising in relation to parking and I can discuss those with you at an opportune time.
So a comment on the correspondence on page 9 of the meeting. So, and I don't know if you want to do this in previous councils, if there was an action that came out of the correspondence, and you put it on the action plans that didn't get lost. And I think that was a better way of doing it, a good way to do it, because I certainly lost track of the other correspondence and I lost track of some of them. Many of them listed as full information. I wanted to answer them. And there are others that had a response, but I wasn't sure it was meant to come. And there are many about issues around the CAO and by-elections and all sorts of stuff that have never been responded to. And it's probably on me that when I then started going through them, there's so many different things overlapping between those emails and so many different items there that I'm not sure, without coming to council and understanding what the response was, and all of you done a response, kind of difficult to respond on behalf of council. So really easy ones, and all of those ones I consciously on this list did not attempt. So I think you should think about in detail how you want to do these responses. If we are testing the person to do the response, what does council want you to say? What that person is?
Yeah, I found that too, because there's a lot of letters there and people are waiting and complaining that they haven't been responded to. And I know that previous council designated, as an example, you're in charge of responding right now. And so, yeah, there must be a better way or more simpler way.
It was basically these type of contentious issues on the previous council. It was fairly easy to, when someone said you should respond, give council's opinion. In some of these, it's not that simple. My opinion might not be council's opinion. The last thing I want to do is go out with something, and then the rest of council says, well, I don't agree with that. That's what we can do. We need to be more clear if we are responding, what the response is going to be.
You could draft that. Well, why don't we discuss it? Maybe what's the best approach, but drafting a letter and then relaying it to the councillors and get the okay.
And tonight, and tonight's correspondence is more than that. So once again, we're going to get some guidance.
Sure. Anthony, did it sound like you?
Well, it seems to me that mine has to sort of discriminate what it is in the correspondence that the writer of the correspondence is seeking. And if it's a particular action that's being requested, I think there's a way of referring that for action, getting a response probably from staff, or at least going through council, but with a response from staff. Whether or not you want to get engaged in the process of, in fact, providing opinion on matters that for which you're being those opinions are being sought by members of the community, that's a different matter. And trying to achieve consensus on the variety of opinions that you're going to be asked to comment on may be a fool's errand, frankly, and a really time-consuming. So by all means, it seems to me, first of all, there has to be acknowledgement of the correspondence, and people have to receive an acknowledgement, and that should be done as promptly as possible. Certainly, if persons are asking for action to be taken, that should be noticed and should put up the priority order. And those are two ways of discriminating, it seems to me. And then one would have to play it by ear.
So to your point on this particular list, where it says for Councillor Abbott's response, I have responded.
Yes.
Where it says for response, but doesn't say by who.
Yes.
And it tends to be all those same ones. I have not responded.
Right.
But I'm not sure what the response should be from the council.
Yeah, well, if I could just, some of the experience I've had as being on council in another community would be that matters of correspondence would generally be received for information, because that's all they were, or expressing an opinion, they received for information. But if there's a particular request for an action on an item that would normally be referred to staff to deal with the report back to council.
Okay.
So that's a mechanism with which I'm familiar.
Should probably try to be better tonight when we get to the correspondence
Yeah.
tonight. We should try to be better at responding to what the response is. Some of them just say for information, others say for response, but not for the guidance. So I'm really not sure what we decided. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll move on from that. I'm sorry, Mark.
Mayor, through the mayor. The key issue, I think, to begin with, though, is the acknowledgement, and there has not been a process, as I understand, that I raised in a previous meeting, that that letters are being received and residents were wondering what happened to them. So it's the key thing is to acknowledge that they have been received and some indication, if we're as much as possible, as to when they would expect a response, if they can expect a response or whatever, but not that it goes into, we've had situations where people sent a letter and before we've had a chance to respond to it in council, a second letter has come saying what's happened to my previous letter. So just the acknowledgement is important.
And if I may, through the mayor, that may be an item of the procedure by in other words, there'd be some sort of time frame included. So when correspondence comes in, there'll be a target date of 10 days or whatever it might be, which might be reasonable in terms of an expectation rather than it being floated.
I think that's a good suggestion. Why don't we see if there is any procedure with bylaw, or if not, we look at drafting something. Councillor Reuter.
I have one more actually on this year in the next meeting. Sorry, 29th. That's in the 20th.
Yeah.
On the 29th, the check of the receiving draft code of conduct. Put that to an action item and discuss that in council.
Yeah, good idea. We could discuss that probably with the procedures bylaw, or at least have a chance to review that and provide additional comments or feedback on that. If we need to do further research, whatever maybe.
And
Okay, regarding the 29th. Okay, on page 2, it says that the CFO's last day of work will be changed from January 13th. It doesn't say January 13th, but it says will be changed to January 18th, 2023. And in that meeting, we discussed, I mentioned to the meeting that the letter of resignation showed the January 13th date. And I asked if it was required for her to formally extend her period of resignation. So I'm just wondering if that letter was received, just in terms of process. And so I recall you. Someone has resigned on a given date and is still on site, which they are. Whether there's worker compensation, whether the payroll is handled and so on. So it's just that formality. I'm not sure if that has been received. So make mention.
Sorry, are you asking for an amendment of the minutes?
No, this is arising from the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Wright.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to reports and the staff report, the CAO. My count there, Mr. Tobin, would you like to give us feedback or
Why
sorry, probably I cut you a little off guard here, but just one of our items was a CAO report, and I believe the actual report was not submitted at this time. So is there anything verbally that you would like to convey?
Well, I think so. Just since this is my first formal council meeting in public, I would firstly like to thank council for both the confidence in me in appointing me in this position. It's a privilege and honor to work for this village. I'm highly committed to ensuring that we have a village that it is functioning at the best it can, and that there are proper safeguards in place for all aspects of village functioning. And that runs the gamut. And that's partly what I've been involved in this first 8 days, is to just get a benchmark of where things are. So I believe in this mantra, which is called understanding before action. And so I want to get a basic understanding of how things are operating, and then to present what I think can be improved, if it can be improved, and with as much consultation as is reasonably possible. So those are a couple of opening remarks I'd like to make. Again, it's an honor and privilege to be invited to do this work, even though it's on an interim basis. I don't see this as being my future career. My career, I think, is behind me, at least my legal career and my other careers. But I'm happy to make myself available to do the best I can and to move towards a collaborative model of decision-making and consultation. And that's based on my own view of how the legislation works. There are various ways to interpret legislation, and it can be interpreted woodenly, so as to create barriers, and can be interpreted flexibly, but meaningfully, so it allows for an effective collaboration. And that's part of the purpose of what I'm trying to encourage in terms of the communications of council with members of the public, and also to establish a balance between the powers of the administration and the proper powers of council. And my first review of the governing legislation and how it's been implemented in this village is it appears to me to have been slightly got out of kilter, that there's a tilt towards a powerful administration and less authority within council. And I don't think that is good for the village, and it's not good for the service, nor is it good for being able to collaborate and use the best resources we have. And there are certainly lots of those in the village of Lions Bay. So those are my opening remarks. And again, I'm grateful for the opportunity of this extraordinary challenge. I had no idea when I agreed how challenging it would be, I can assure you. Thank you.
Anthony, thank you very much. I'll just say that I believe as a council and as a village, we're very fortunate to have Anthony's expertise and experience, and he certainly has drawn my admiration and respect over the last couple of weeks. We're very fortunate, and quite frankly, I think we're very lucky to have Anthony's input here. So yeah, with that, I'd add to look, this is a new game for myself and the councillors. We all come from different backgrounds and different experiences, and it's going to take some time. We're early in our administration, and we've got 4 years, but hopefully we can learn to collaborate and be effective as early as possible. So I look forward to that. Any other comments?
Yeah. I think go ahead. Yeah. I'd just like to thank you for taking on the challenge. It's been quite daunting, I'm sure. There has been a lot of information to try to discover in a very short time. So I really am very, very pleased with what we're seeing so far. I recognize the frustration on the part of the community trying to understand and get more information, but we have to ensure that we have accurate, very carefully researched information before we can disclose that to the community. So, and I just would like to assure the community that we will share whatever information we can at the earliest possible time that we can, but responsibly, respectfully to the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, I make sentiments of whether we can work collaboratively, sorry, some awardedly. And yeah, I look forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting down to it.
That's great. Thank you for that. Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, just, I'm a little confused. Did we skip section 8?
Yes. We will circle back. We will circle back. Sorry, apologies. Any comments? No, thank you. Okay. With that, we'll circle back to section 8, finished business. Follow-up action items from the previous meetings. Once the council village CAO has had sufficient time to review matters and meet with staff and advisors, the CAO and council will be reporting on unfinished business in future meetings. We can comment and run through these if you'd like, but I think Anthony would probably stand to review some of the items.
The claims we can take them first.
No, I don't think so. No, because I speak to a couple. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. I spoke to Tom Fruchet, who's the head of Millie Capilano the other day on another matter. And he indicated that they were providing the pavement review. And what my concern was that it would not be in time for their 2023 budget, and that in fact it would push into next year if the quiet pavement was part of the plan for this next year. And he assured me that it would be that the decisions made will be in time for the 2023 budget. So that's good news in terms of our discussions with the highway committee, which Councillor Reuter and I are involved in. Sliding down to the First Nations acknowledgement, there's been a bit of a discussion on Lions Day neighbors, which I really appreciate. Alison Dudley and others have weighed in terms of ensuring that we have the most respectful and the most correctly done acknowledgement if we're going to proceed with that. And I had calls into the Squamish Nation, and in fact today I was referred to the Cultural and Languages Services, who I've been assured will assist in getting the right and respectful acknowledgement for our meetings. I was interested to notice that in 2021, former Mayor McLaughlin was searching out the same information. So it's taken a while, but hopefully we'll get to it over the next, before the January 31st meeting. Okay.
I'll just address it December 20th. I've reached out to Mayor McEwen on this speculation vacancy tax. Not a lot of feedback there other than it didn't affect their community to a great extent. I haven't contacted anyone else on that. So that'll need additional follow-up.
And that'll be with the Ministry of Finance, I presume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything? William, Councillor Abbott for Roy? Okay. I see the other two items on here. We defer those to the next meeting, or I see the pesticide bylaw and the correspondence and the sweet surcharge. Those are items that you might want to get up to speed on.
Yeah, back to last year, so yeah, is that an action item for the CAO? The confirmed bylaw is this is the pesticide bylaw.
It's the same bylaw in the agenda.
Yes, I know. It says here confirmed that it's in alignment with municipal.
I think so. I think we tasked you with the checking of schedule A or whatever it was. And our bylaw was the same as the one that was on the street. I think it was just a check. Nothing was required.
Yes, that's correct. The table in the amended bylaw that's before council is exactly the same as the table in the ministry order.
Yeah. So we can approve the bylaw tonight. We have the third reading or adoption.
No, third reading.
Third reading is not. Okay.
Thank you. All right.
We deferred third reading until tonight because of this.
Yeah. Okay. Want to approve that?
It's in the package.
Yeah, it's in the packaging. Okay.
Resolution.
Okay, anything on the suite
What was the other one? The suites.
surcharge?
There's nothing to follow up on that. The suggestion was that we should have a discussion at council about at some point.
Yeah.
And probably should have done it before the utilities bylaw. So, see if they're on here. I don't know who reacted to the utilities bylaw.
All right, why don't we defer that until Anthony gets up to speed? Okay.
Yeah, that will impact budget as well, so it's certainly will be part of our budget discussions, I presume. I haven't seen the budget yet, so I don't know what the impact will be, so.
Okay, we'll move back to item number 9B, council Lions Bay Beach Workshop. We've got the report on page 47. Councilors Broughton and Abbott. Do you want to receive that, or did you want to say a few words?
Say a few words, I guess. There's nothing in the report we drafted it's news to anyone. It's not really that late. Other than what we announced tonight. Certainly the Scott of Open Learnings. Oliver, the other 2 members joining the committee. Planning is to get the 6 of us together, pick a date as soon as possible, fill up the committee, and we'll then first order of item. First action item will obviously be through the reference, which we are going to do first, followed by a schedule. 2 of those. We'll start our committee, and I think we'll be having reports coming back to this body for approval. Hopefully we'll positive approval and spending lots of rain. Well, hopefully not too much, but at least enough to get a nice beach park.
Yeah, all right.
We intend to be moving ahead very quickly. Intend to this will be a focused group with real action approach. And one of my concerns was that perhaps we were moving quickly to make the group smaller, but I feel very comfortable with the fact that the 18 very actively involved individuals will continue to be involved and will continue to feed in to the beach park. It's a really an exciting project. There is one looks like a typo on there, and it refers to wildlife, which I thought was really we're going to have wildlife at the park. So there's anyway, it's just a correction for the minutes, but I can't. It's on page 47 somewhere in there. But anyway, thank you. All right, to all the people who have brought forward a phenomenal amount of energy for this.
There's a small staff ask for staff in general, just to support village updates, updating the website. It might not be as easy as some think. I'm looking across the arena, and I don't think any of the committee members speak Drupal, so they're going to need some help there. And I think now we obviously going to be asking you to join the meetings. Probably not everyone can meet frequently, but we certainly going to need some support and information from you. And probably started adding in the first meeting, but some updates. The committee members have got one. Okay, so
all right.
I think there'll be some work from staff, certainly from my point of view.
That's great.
Should we clarify what Drupal is? It is the language that our website.
Great. Thanks for the update, and thank you to everyone for moving this project forward. I know it's really important to the village, obviously, and extremely excited at how quickly it's come along. So thanks to Susan Davis and Scott Gordon for leading the working group and now joining the committee. So next item on the agenda, Councillor Abbott, Bear Smart Committee, you've got a report, I believe.
So I have a report, and I also have table items pass it on. This is the track changes bylaw that gets suggested by the group, the committee. And it didn't get attached to the agenda, unfortunately. There's a misunderstanding with the meeting now. I mean, this is what we are suggesting as the changes to the bylaw. And I just want to make one other correction in the report. The report mentioned a resolution. We do not need a resolution. We have one from November 15th already. And I gave you a copy of that. Okay, stuff and pass it on. Yeah. Are you at all in?
Yes.
Yeah, Marcus, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you,
Are you looking for?
no, I'm not. The reason I'm not, don't need it. I thought I needed it. I was thinking we're going to have another decision. That there's any need for it because on November 15th, we passed a resolution that I've just given handed out. That basically gave us that council instead support the following actions and ability to review and provide recommendations to strengthen attractions and provisions to the garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455/2013. And that is an alternatively to provide recommendations in the back of the page for a standalone attractions bylaw. So what has happened since the standalone attractions bylaw and the significant changes that would make to this bylaw, which means it timed the new waste collection contract. The waste collection contract has been extended 2 years in a row. And I don't know if the workshop manager has a comment on where that is in the schedule, but we know it's not going to happen this year. So the alternate that we just adjust the existing garbage and recycling collection bylaw to accommodate some of the changes we did last year. The schedule pickup, that kind of stuff. As an interim plan until we do, if the council chooses to, we have full attractions bylaw next year once we resolve the contract for those. So I'm asking that this goes to staff, gets on the bylaw list, and they review the state changes. But it was already a previous resolution.
Just a couple of questions for my understanding. The track changes, are they agreed changes or are they just proposed changes? They
are agreed changes from our committee.
All right.
But I have left in all the track changes, if it does look a little confusing,
right,
from various inputs.
Right.
I could, if you prefer, I could clean it up and have just one track change. That would, if you prefer.
I'm just trying to get a sense of what is the actual the document that's got traction and what's the commentary.
If you click off the track changes, you will see the document.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Use a word file, click on.
So delete the changes and I'll
You
get.
have to delete them, just need to close them down. So there's
Okay.
the record, and you can see the clean copy. And then you can go back to see the change.
Okay, and my second question was, who is the author of this document?
Or if multiple authors,
Okay, well, yes.
based on committee, myself, as the auditor,
Okay,
Gail. So then I've just forgotten.
so it's a collaborative enterprise.
Collaborative live and.
Okay, that's kind of clarified.
And then Brigida Shaw's the other member. She was away.
All right.
Which they may be a little further.
Okay, and when you say again through the when you say refer to staff, what are you looking for?
I would be hoping to see a bylaw come to as soon as possible, council meeting, which we can then do together and do the first, second, third, and adoption as fast as we can do it.
We have a chance to sort of familiarize ourselves with this and then.
Okay, thank you.
Could we receive this then at this point? And
Well, yeah, a question to you, would it be appropriate if we just take this as the first reading? Reading in the next meeting. That everyone's changing the regulations.
If you wanted to fast track it, that's way of doing it.
Okay, so can we have this on the next council agenda for the first reading?
Yes.
As it stands, I'll send you a clean copy today, see who said what, just what we said.
Yep, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so everyone good with that?
Yeah, that's fine. It'll give us a chance to look at it and
have a look at, what are the budget impacts based on this?
There is budget impacts on staff from the workshop point of view. we did have these provisions in last year, and we added it to the budget. But so they were budgeted for last year, supplemental to the original budget. So I'm not sure. I would expect the staff have already put this into the budget going forward this year. Therefore, there's no budget impacts. But we haven't seen it yet.
Okay, it also does this impacts the bylaw enforcement officers time as well. Right?
No, the bylaw enforcement did this work. It's not asking for any more hours by the
Additional elements. Okay.
Can you just run through just briefly, just what the highlights of this
And one of the
changes are?
So one of the concerns we had last year is we put forward this targeted collection schedule, as you remember, and focused on the areas where the bears were active. So in the bear was active, you pick up first. Our procedures bylaw, sorry, our garbage and waste collection bylaw actually said it didn't get amended to follow. What it said was you can put out the garbage anytime after 5 p.m. So in the very small number of people in the village that chose to ignore that, and I'm talking about a very small amount of people, the bylaw enforcement officer didn't have the means to force them to follow. That's the one change. The other change is cleaning up wording around their resistant versus their proof claims. So other municipalities talk about their proof containers, the whistlers or anyone else. That's clearly understood what's their proof. We use the word their resistant, it isn't really defined. And it allowed for people to, it made it really difficult to enforce someone's containment of the garbage from a bylaw point of view, and it's very difficult for them to correct the behaviors. So those are the two.
So you're talking about implementing different garbage cans, people required to.
We're talking about if someone leaves their garbage outside, it's in an unsecure, flimsy container, or it's in the carport, or inside, not in a what's out of the area. Term resistant, not defined, that's an issue for the bylaw, because the person would say, well, I am taking care of my garbage, it is resistant. It's not bear proof. So you want to change it to make it stronger, make it bigger. That way, the bylaw, we should speak to the bylaw enforcement officers there, with their feedback.
Yeah, but you're looking through the mayor, you're looking for language, it's enforceable.
Language is enforceable.
Yes, thank you.
And clear, yes.
Okay,
They're the two main changes. Marcus is in.
No, that's about it.
Yeah. The rest of it's just around definitions of getting to those two changes.
and what's the result? Somebody leaves a garbage can, a bear breaks into a garbage can, bylaw officer can.
They always start with education, they always start with a warning, but last time they couldn't do anything else. So now we're saying, being warned, you've been asked not to do it, continue to do it. Breaking the tractor, which is creating bear encounters with humans, which are the two end results. It gets hurt, they say what happens, bear gets destroyed, what happened last year twice.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, so that people that are negligent, very few people with human loss. We're talking about minuscule percentages. But we need the bylaw enforcement officer to have something that can cause help them to do the job, change behavior.
Okay. I guess we'll look at this and bring it to the next council meeting. Okay, any other comments?
I'm not sure whether what the impact may be on the bylaw enforcement. You're saying there's no additional law enforcement time. It's sort of a reallocation of.
The bylaw enforcement guys did this last year.
Right.
They just couldn't get any past the warning, so they have to go warn person 5 times a day. Now they can warn and do something about it. Actually should make it easier for them and probably less wasted time.
Okay.
They can actually move it to another.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify because I know that the probably will be discussing bylaw enforcement in terms of parking as we talk about the parking committee and get the data there. So I think just want to be clear that there's trying to understand whether there will be impact. That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. No other questions, comments? All right, item C, committees. I don't know if there was anything like Was there any information under that or? No? Okay. Item number D, emergency services, Bill Fulkerson. Report and update. Any comments?
I could speak that quick.
Okay.
So yeah, I've discussed it before. And I think you sent an email to. I think we need to establish that committee. A bylaw committee is the committee main function. It's really defined by bylaw. It's in place. Decided the members of them. It does require both mayor and CDO to attend. To size the others. I think we need to get them set up sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
To the 31st of January, I think would be good. It's the same week as the council meeting. And maybe make it Wednesday or Thursday. Should be on some sort of regular schedule because some resignations are some of the committee members and the residents. So we need to get
Agreed. And I think Phil, we're supposed to get together Mr. Togan with Bill as early as possible. So okay. Wait on that. Perfect. Okay. Resolutions were Mr. Tobin, any resolutions that you want to bring forward? No, not at this point. Thank you. Okay. Bylaws, the pesticide.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify with the resolutions. We did the resolution beginning of the year in terms of acting mayor, and it was alphabetical. And at this point, Councillor Barmeyer is scheduled to take over February the 1st. So I just wanted to clarify that I guess he'll step out of the schedule, being that he's resigned. I would then be acting mayor as of February the 1st. And whoever is elected would assume the 4th position. Does that seem like a reasonable, logical intervention? But I just wanted to formalize that. Okay, because it could be a serious matter if the mayor was away. And so
I'm fine with that.
Walter Ryder, or should we adopt an acting mayor schedule that takes into account the deficit we have here and make it 4, 4, and 4, or pardon me, it'd be 3, 3, and 3. 4 months. Yeah, it did. Yes, until we have a 5th person in the room that we.
Why don't we move forward and just shuffle the deck forward?
Give you another month.
Why don't we just move it forward and the by-election will come and we'll hopefully have our 5th person in council and then we'll take them on his position, 4th position. Sure. Because that makes it simpler than.
Although I'm not looking forward to taking over the letter writing, so. But that's fine.
Would that be okay? Yeah. All right, a motion for that. Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Carrie, okay, thank you. Okay, bylaws, a pesticide bylaw 430, 2011 amendment. Recommendation of the bylaw amendments 430 and 624 be introduced and read on the first, second, and third time. Any comments on that?
My good point is the bylaw was originally written by former CAO Peter John, and his name is showing on it. Is that there's no issue with, I don't think there's any issue with that. I just wanted to, and that it was written by CAO John and provided to council by, or pardon me, checked by CFO, as I recall. So
Good question, Anthony.
maybe just change it.
We just change that.
But CAO didn't bring it forward though.
No, so he brought it, but I don't think you should put the name on it if I didn't.
Yeah, it's got something.
Forward and then deferred. It was brought forward when he was the CAO.
We get the third reading.
So we voted, okay.
So I think, yeah, we should just.
It's not gonna confound the bylaw in any way.
Okay,
Sometimes less is more.
All right. So Anthony, what do we need to do on that? Do we need a motion on that or?
But I have a copy of the. Yeah, you would need a motion, certainly.
It's in the package.
Okay, it's page 55.
Motion.
Yeah, my page 55 is three readings to the bottom. Have you read it first time, a second time, a third time?
And there was a,
The numbers are on. The numbers are on the top.
Okay, thank you.
I think Anthony might have the previous version.
No, yeah, I'm reading. I understand what she's referring to. Thank you very much. Helps. Yeah, that somebody else's numberings on other pages. There we are. Okay, I have it now. Thank you. I have it now. Yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried.
like second reading.
With that motion. Okay, second. Favor?
Yes.
Okay,
Move third reading.
second. Favor? Yes, carried. Yep. Okay, correspondence is the next item. The last meeting we had, we focused in on, we took the majority of letters as read, and we focused in on any that we thought we hadn't covered or needed to attend to. So, Neville, that has been your quarter to look at and respond to the letters. Anything there that you'd like to highlight, respond to?
Yeah, and we just go through them.
And as I say, if you can take the majority as read, and just focus in on the ones that you think
Sure.
need immediate attention, and I know you're going to respond to many of them, so.
Well, we need to get guidance on that when we get to that part. The first one, G1, is parking comment from a non-resident. I think we received that. G2, CSPCA, and Sense magazine that has some useful links. That are difficult to get to, of course, because someone sends a letter and puts a link in it. It's going to be bad practice. So you have to type the links in. The letters, mouse doesn't work on letters. But anyway, there's nothing much in that. But if you're interested in safety predictions, there's some useful tools on those links. I encourage people to look at them. 3, study, wants to send us reports from time to time. I think we should just receive this. It's fairly dry. There are residents that are interested in transit and CT sky. And particularly that you want to look at. If you want to get worked up about gas prices in the CT sky area, you can look at those. That's in there as well. The comment about Bowen Island Health, and this is within Israel. I didn't realize 20% at Bowen Island they're currently doing. 6 million of the $7 million was raised by the community. I was thinking a big fat grant they got.
Councillor, can I make just a suggestion?
Yeah.
A motion could be to receive and acknowledge those are basically for information, and then to refer those as a requesting action for a response.
So
Would that work for you?
receive all of them?
Yeah, receive them and acknowledge them. To receive and acknowledge, just underlying this earlier discussion.
Without mentioning.
Yeah, without giving the identification, because they're already listed.
This won't take them. I'm happy to do it this way.
All right.
There's sometimes the stuff we want to talk about. On page 8 of the John Stewart report, I don't suggest an action needed, but they have myself and Councillor Balmer as a claim. It was a mistake. Certainly wasn't a claim. And then before was we're going to congratulate the Senator. There's nothing much there. G5. George Harvey's looking for members of the agricultural committee, and I don't think that's going to apply to anyone there. G6. There's an update from an earlier report. Health safety, we had that in the last package. It seemed pretty much like the same information. You can just receive that. Unless anyone's interested in those meetings, I think the meeting dates may have changed. If anyone is interested, this time we can go look at that. G7 wild safe BC. I'm going to take this to Besmark because there may be something that's in there for us. Since more grants, so I'll take that to the Besmark group. G8. This is some grant money that's unfortunately we can't supply. It's for registered charity, non-profits, and First National governments. So no grant for us. G9 was Bell and LGA. We don't get out to Harrison Hot Springs. I don't intend going. Sure if anyone else in council wants to just
See and acknowledge.
see and acknowledge that one as well. Yeah. So the only action was that I said BC one, which I'll take the base one.
Okay.
Correspondence. Actually, we're starting to get towards the end, but I just realized this latest package was about 5 more correspondence letters than I said. I was using the Thursday draft. Okay, so I use the Thursday draft, so I didn't miss you back to one of them. So now that's slowly we get to that. No, I haven't, and I noticed them, but I haven't written that one. But anyway, okay, so we've got a few more than I planned. First one. Like this one is addressed to you. James, surname I've forgotten. Canal. Okay. This is about the inflation policy. You responded to him, a suggestion of some sort.
I responded that he forwarded to council. Suggested that it be forwarded to council, which is why it's so because it's a suggestion regarding the encroachment policy.
Okay. So you're not suggesting we do anything at this stage with it?
Just be aware of it as council, yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to receive that. Second one was Alison Dudley and the land acknowledgement you spoke about there. Third one was Craig, questions about staffing, staff in Western Village, and a few of those, which showing up for information. So that's initially makes the instruction which one first points of information. But somebody aside for anything?
It depends really on how you want to manage it. If you're calling the register, so to speak, you made a discrimination as to whether you think it needs a response.
I'm just asking the register in the package already has someone who suggested the action for informational response. That's was that you made that decision. Okay.
See, and to make the determination. I don't know.
Why don't we receive it and refer to staff?
Yeah, that'd be with managing it, yes.
Okay, so I'm not to respond to that. Okay, the next one is Ron Dudley and Travelers has been asking about the additional shutters that we received. I think last year might have been the first time, maybe it's been 2 years. And suggesting that
We have, but I'll suggest we receive that and refer it to staff.
The next one is the response. It's a third council committees. 2 questions about the council committees. Listed, so just so this is the point that I'm raising. Listed the showing as for response.
Just a point of
That's these.
Here's a point of information. Who puts that descriptor in the
I think it was the CEO.
response? No, I haven't seen
Not this one.
this one. I haven't seen it.
If we are to respond, then I suggest that we go to each one of these letters. Emails, check about the subject matter. Some people might even in the audience, if somebody's in. See if we want to discuss it. That suggestion?
Well, my comment would be you're handling your letters. You either craft a response and then pass it out to us. Or if you think there's something critical that needs to be done right now, by all means, we'll take a stab at it. But again, I think we received the majority of these, since we don't have a policy or one that we don't know of, you look after these, you carve them off to whoever you think is best to respond.
Okay. That's how it's been done in the past. That is finding a little difficult with some of these at the moment. So,
Okay.
You suggesting that I can respond to them?
Yeah, if there's something that you think needs input from us, send us a draft and say, look, here's what I'm going to respond. We haven't got a policy on this, or we can come up with a policy. Anthony threw out some great suggestions earlier.
So the common themes are, we can go through them. Standing committees. Who's on the standing committee? Where are the terms of reference? Some of that's been answered.
Okay, I answered that earlier, but I'll answer it right now. Standing committees are the mayor's choice, and the standing committee terms of reference will be published when we have them. The finance committee, the terms of reference are on the website. These committees, the intention is to get them up and running as quickly as possible because we've had tremendous response from the community. I think someone asked me about this earlier, was have you reached out to the community? And I went back in the literature and speeches and counted at least 5. I stopped counting at 5 times that we'd reached out. I think that reaching out formally might be a great thing to do. I noticed that you did that for the Curly Stewart and a couple of the other, the Bear Smart Committee. So I think that's a tremendous way to do it. And I'll endeavor to do that as we move forward.
Can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
There's clearly in the set of correspondence I see here, there's the elephant in the room is that there is a high degree of concern about the finance committee, and especially as to whether it has in fact been mandated by council. And I share those concerns. It seems to me that our council procedures bylaw under section 52 states that committee will undertake review into matters as directed by council. So if the terms of reference have not come before council for approval, then I would agree with some of the concerns that I see being expressed by residents on this front. The mandate, of course, for the mayor is to establish the committee, but a system of checks and balances, it seems to me that's built into our bylaw is that the committees undertake review as directed by council. And just to be clear, that has not happened. And in my view, must happen. I would further add that until such a thing happens, there should be no further meetings of this purported finance committee, because as by my reading, it is not a finance committee until it has received its mandate and approval by council. That's
okay. Well, the elephant in the room, as you've described it, I'll describe my elephant in the room as I called a special meeting on very short notice for Friday. I believe it was it Friday the 13th? Yes, yeah, we shouldn't forget that, Friday the 13th. And unfortunately, and that was noted that it was a closed meeting because there was some banking and various other issues that needed to be addressed. I reached out to all the councillors personally, and I actually reached out to the councillors and said, look, I'm not having success connecting with you.
that I'll be down here at the council chambers, and I gave 2 specific times to meet in person, because I felt there was a very critical issue that needed to be dealt with and continues to need to be addressed. And so, as a mayor, standing committees are my prerogative to put together, as are the terms of reference. But I'm reaching out on a practical basis. When I see something that could affect our village, could affect all of our villagers, you know, I want to act, and I'm reaching out to you. And now I'm looking at, you're looking at me. I reached out and said, how can we get together on this? Marcus, I reached out to you, and I actually gave you, after the 4th try, I gave you 2 separate times to meet right down here at the council chambers. And I was unsuccessful.
It's a mischaracterization of the attempt.
Yes.
The Friday the 13th meeting was a special meeting, special council meeting, nothing to do with the finance meeting. It was a special council meeting. And I informed you that I could not make
The
that.
council, the finance committee was going to report to that committee. So, and
There was no agenda telling me that there was nothing special council meeting.
how many times did we talk on the phone prior to that meeting? Numerous times.
I would just say that we're devolving here,
Anyway,
but
can I just make,
Well, we're actually on letters that could have been deferred.
can I make one more point?
Yeah.
Tonight, I think when you're talking about being shown tonight in the president.
Well, as a matter of fact, the closed meeting will pick up again once we close this open meeting off. So that closed meeting, and it may go on for some time.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some issues that need to be addressed. And I would encourage the councillor.
Made that clear earlier too. And there's a part of paper, the evidence in it,
Right.
and I suggested this was the time to have a meeting, and I wasn't available, so I told you that. Anyway,
Okay.
so now we've got it on the table. Are we gonna have a late night doing it? Suggest we do.
Okay. Let's move on. In regards to standing committees, I'll just say one more time. Those are the mayor's choices to appoint those standing committee, and the terms of reference have been passed out, but it's also the mayor's. And correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony.
No, part of this revolves around through the mayor, an interpretation of the law, right? And I have sort of criticisms of the wording of some of these bylaws, because they create the kind of conflict that's now arisen, because you have an apparent contradiction in this provision, where and also it's open to interpretation. Section 52, on which you rely, Councillor Rogers says, committees will undertake review as directed by council. It doesn't mean they're going to be directed by council. It's the matter that they're reviewing. So it's the nature of the review which is being directed, not what they're reviewing. That's the first. So it's not open just to a narrow interpretation. And a legislative interpretive principle is one looks at the whole piece of legislation to see this overall consistency. So when one reads the whole thing in total, then you see that in section 53 that the mayor establishes the committee and also establishes the terms of reference. Right? So this all has to be read together. And if you wanted to go further than that, there's case law in the British Supreme Court to the effect that in terms of the interpretation of the procedure bylaws, the court has held repeatedly that the council is master in its own house. So in other words, it's not going to be, wouldn't be constrained by bylaws and procedures that are not facilitated. And this is a decision, there are several decisions, and I can refer you, and I've got the case law here. So I think we have to be more circumspect when we insist on a very narrow and written interpretation of the legislation, and use the appropriate principles of legislative interpretation. And the other thing is, one has to look at the status of a bylaw in relation to other pieces of legislation. And again, the court says that failure to follow procedure is not fatal because it's contained in the bylaw and is not statutory in nature. So I just invite you to consider the Montbon is making grounds on a very narrow principle, then there are broader considerations that have to apply. And that's why I'm embarked upon trying to get feedback about coming up with a set of bylaws that then create this kind of conflict about what is the meaning of the term shall review in matters as directed by council. Does it mean it limits the matters can be reviewed, or is the direction concerned how the matter itself is reviewed? And that's a very important distinction, and it's not one I don't think that you can argue is unambiguous. So the greatest of respect.
But allow me to respond if I could. This reading that I have of the section of the community charter as relates to committees is not wooden at all. It seems to me that, and you mentioned council.
No, I beg your pardon, you said community charter. I thought you were referring to procedure bylaw.
I'm referring to the community charter here. Pardon me. No, you're right. I'm referring to the procedure bylaw.
Thank you.
Yes, my mistake. Council must have some ability to review this. I mean, I pose you a hypothetical question. If a hypothetical mayor were to wish to strike a standing committee that wanted to investigate whether every firstborn male infant should be sterilized within the village.
All right, I think we're getting a little.
I think
that this is just going out of town. I'm sorry.
And if that matter could not come back to council for review as a system of.
All right.
Then that's from the chair.
Okay.
The standing committee is an advisory committee. It's an advisory committee. It's not a decision-making committee. It brings recommendations to council.
Sure.
I must commend the mayor for calling the meeting of the standing finance committee as a result of his concern.
Okay.
That was drawn to his attention by meetings.
We're gonna just, sorry to interrupt you. We're just gonna adjourn the meeting for a few minutes. This will, one of our participants takes a break, and I think anybody in the gallery would like to take a break, we'll adjourn the meeting for just a few minutes. Thank you. Getting a drink of water. Anyone like a drink of water?
And you guys move the Zoom laptop to the middle of the table so we can hear what you're saying.
We've got a recording device in the middle of the table. We're really struggling. No, it's me. Sorry, Michael. Yeah. Okay.
Can you just move on to the agenda?
We'll try to move forward a little bit faster if we can, because I know we've got a number of items and we've got to go back into close as well and take care of some business.
We're talking about the issue. The issue that we're discussing is the fact that we have a mayor appointed finance committee, which was appointed on quite rapidly and met quite rapidly as a result of the mayor's concern for information which had come to his attention. And so what I'd like to just clarify is that I applaud the action being taken and the committee members meeting quickly, reviewing the information and attempting to bring that information to council in as timely a way as they possibly could, namely to a special council meeting on Friday. Unfortunately, that meeting did not have a quorum, and so the items that will be discussed have come to this meeting, and hopefully that will be timely enough. So hopefully that is the case. All members of this council ran on a platform of open, transparent governance, and we are committed to providing information to all residents as soon as we possibly can. So it's very, very challenging when you're dealing with confidential information, when you're dealing with information that involves personnel, when you're dealing with information that could put our community at risk in different ways, financial risk and technological risk. All of these things, it's very difficult until they are resolved. It is incumbent on council to not disclose these matters to the public. So I assure you that I am committed to having information available as quickly as we possibly can. If anything that's within my power to do so, I will be acting to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rhodes. Councillor Abbott, anything further?
I'll be honest, I find it somewhat sad that we're sitting here in the council chambers debating points on our procedures bylaw. Procedures bylaw is fine, it gives us guidance. We just need to start working together and receiving things timelessly, including reports and other things, not coming to meetings, not knowing what to expect. Agendas of, we can't even see things on. So I think we just do that and we'll all start working together, we start moving things forward.
I agree with you on that. And Mr. Tobin, I think, has done a tremendous job in his first 9 days. And I know for the first 3 days, I went down and sat with him in the office many times, providing encouragement, as I know other councillors did. And I reached out to everyone here at the table and asked you personally to go down and support Mr. Tobin in his efforts, because we were unanimous in bringing him on board. And I think that when he did come on board, it's incumbent on us to give him support. So I agree with you, Neville. We all come from diverse backgrounds. I said that earlier. This is, I believe, a learning experience. My understanding of the procedures, the bylaws, are that those are the rules to play in the sandbox in a respectful and a manner that we can move things forward. I don't see the procedures bylaws as being fences and obstacles that we have to hurdle on a continuous basis, day in, day out, and staff included. I have the vision and the hope, and I've heard feedback from Anthony and others and other mayors in the metro community that I'm now a part of on the board, have relayed their stories of how things aren't as challenging, that there is a structure there to communicate. So I see us in the first so many days that we've been here as look, we've accomplished a lot, and I think the Lions Bay Beach get together and committee is testament to that. But in other areas, especially around this table, I think we need to have better rules in which to play in that sandbox.
Yep, and my position, if we just follow good governance, it'll be great, we'll get there and there's no issues. And just one
in terms of governance.
Just one final point through the chair. On what you just said, you asked me to come down and meet Anthony. I came down, he wasn't working in the office, he was working from home at that stage. I never knew that. I did contact him, we had a phone call conversation. Not that I didn't try to reach out to him. We had a phone call conversation. After that, after I found out he was working from home. And here's my point. If we had all this paperwork available to present to us on Friday, why did we only see it tonight after the meeting got closed?
I'll give you a very simple answer.
It's
been a drip of information since I was inaugurated November 1st. It took me till December 15th was the promise that I will get information that was available with the touch of a keypad. I'm still asking for information. Mr. Tobin has requested meetings after meeting and information. It's a drip. So I'm
purely referring to this package you presented us tonight. We'd never seen that you wanted to present to us on Friday when it wasn't available. Why didn't you just send it on Friday evening? We would have reviewed it. We could have finished it tonight. Now we're seeing things for the first time. Okay, I think
it's all about communication, and we can cover that off in the closed meeting. I think would be a better spot.
Sure.
And as I mentioned, I tried to get the closed meeting together for Friday the 13th. And I tried to meet in person with many here at the table.
Yeah.
So I hope that we can communicate better as we move forward, because this village deserves better from all of us.
I think we all want to do that.
Okay.
We all agree with that. So I'll just touch on a few correspondence items that aren't related to the topic we just had. I think we've had that discussion. There was one from Sue Cole May about the Calvin Grove Trail, which is related to the connector, and make sure staff brings that to the connector discussion where it needs to be. And I'm just a little stretched here because I was doing the previous one and we added a few extras. There was comment from Rose Dudley on 61 Brunswick, the tree permit at 61 Brunswick. I don't know if staff know what happened with the council recommendation there. Have they executed on that? Were the residents comfortable, happy with it? Does anyone know?
Don't know.
We find out and get back to us.
Take it as received and referred to.
Yeah, but I'd like to know that it was closed out. There wasn't another issue.
Can I just clarify for for that letter? I attended the tree committee meeting as an interested counselor. I was not a member of the tree committee.
We did discuss this in the previous meeting.
Hmm?
We did discuss all of this in the previous meeting. You have told us.
We did.
You've told us all of this. We've had a discussion. We made
Right.
a resolution. I'm not asking to revisit it. I'm just asking to find out if it's closed out from the residents' point of view and are they moving on? That's all.
Okay. Well, I was asking to revisit it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of them are about staffing changes and the conversation we just had earlier. So I will, that's the direction, respond to them as best I can. And I will make every effort to be that the opinion of council. That's what the ask is.
Okay.
So all the 4 response ones, you can go back to making them for me, which I wasn't sure they were.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, did you have something?
That's the end.
No, it's just something I noticed, and I don't want to open this up again, but just for as a footnote for future reference, I would refer you to section 4 of the community charter, which talks about how you interpret municipal legislation. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay. Item number 13, new business. Any items?
Not for me.
Okay. We'll open it up to public questions. Maria, thank you again for your help on that. Back to the gallery in-house. Is there any questions that you'd like to pose? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to the online. There's some questions. Steyer, your hand up, Steyer.
I just wanted to give you some more feedback. Whatever you did, jiggling the wire or whatever made the microphone much better. Neville, we could hear you perfectly. Chef's kiss. So I think if I can recommend tonight that you guys have a look at your microphone system, because I think it probably was just a jiggled wire, and which means that you maybe need to replace it.
Thank you.
Thank you, will do.
Okay. Any other questions from the gallery? I don't see any hands. We'll give you a few seconds here if there's anybody has a question. Okay. If there's no questions, we'll move back to the closed meeting. Do we need a resolution here to close off this public portion? I believe we do. Resolution, second.
So second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the gallery.
Pending. Everyone here tonight, thank you. Taking the time out of your night.